live shortly. everybody. Of course, right as I get ready to go on the air, the repeater gets active. So hopefully y'all can hear me. I will probably check on that here in just a second. Got it on the screen there. It's on the mirror. So a little bit of a change to the room here. A cloud-shaped mirror that my wife wanted me to hang up. So now I can see me watching me. So anyway, if that gets too distracting, I'll just put it over here by the closet. Eagle 621. Wasn't familiar with Brett Smith, but let's see. Yeah, okay, I can hear myself. All right. So hopefully you all can hear me. 5 and 9. Thank you, sir. I wasn't familiar with him, but sorry to hear that. He was on vacation in Ireland, yeah. So, those community level leaders are very important people. And when they pass for whatever reason, it's always a hit to the community. So, certainly feel for you guys. I hope you all can remember him well, and hopefully he will his legacy will live on. So let's see. I got a couple of people that I messaged about the net, and let's see. Can you send it? Yeah. Let's see. It's on Facebook. Sending it to Ken. Let's see. I'll put it up on the thing here shortly. That is a little disconcerting. I'll just scoot that over there. Okay, so I don't know who looks better, me or the guy in the mirror. So anyway, had some. Today's just been a crazy Sunday. I mean, we had some weather moving in, but nothing severe. There was a special weather statement, which is going to expire in 2 minutes. And other than that, it's been a rather quiet night. But I will. I hope it'll stay quiet, because I, for one, could use a breather. It's been kind of a busy weekend for me. And it's going to be even busier because I'll be heading out to Colorado in a couple of days. And I don't know if anybody's been keeping up with the news. There's been a terrorist attack in Colorado that happened a few hours ago, and both my kids are there. And so I've been on pins and needles about that. Fortunately, they were nowhere near the event that occurred. They're both okay. In fact, one's on a plane heading home. She'll be home here in the next couple of hours. So, just like I said, just been a kind of a crazy day. Keeping up with that. So anyway, thank you, Brandon. And I think is that Josh there? Yeah, got him in there. All right. We will start the net here in just a couple of seconds. Give me a minute to get that ready here. Let's see. Okay, repeater got quiet. Somebody was doing a signal check here just a second ago. Alrighty. And this is not the right script. I need to get that. I need to fix that. Okay, training net script. There we go. All right. You can catch us on the 694 repeater. You can catch us on Broadcastify. And, of course, you can catch us here on YouTube. Attention all stations, attention all stations. This is Greg, K4HSM, assuming net control as WX4TYS in Knoxville for the East Tennessee SKYWARN Training Net on the 146.940 WB4GBI repeater. All traffic will be handled by net control. It'll be directed too. Tonight's training net is open to anyone and everyone. It'll consist of announcements and a brief training segment. We will take check-ins throughout the net. Are there any District 5 coordinators on the frequency? If so, please check in now and indicate if you have any announcements.
Net control, this is Kilo Golf 4, Quebec Whiskey India, KG4QWI, Brandon, and Knoxville.
Acknowledging KG4QWI, Brandon, got you in there.
AA4WX helps to not pick up the HF mic. Good evening, Greg. No announcements.
Acknowledging AA4WX in Merville. Got you checked in, sir. Thank you. Any other coordinators? Okay, nothing heard. Real quick, are there any affiliated coordinators from other districts or liaison stations that would like to check in? This is WX4TYS standing by.
KO4LMK, Sevier County.
Acknowledging KO4LMK in Sevier County. I'm sorry, what's your name again?
Ken.
All right, Ken, thank you. How are you affiliated? Are you like Aries coordinator?
No, I'm the Sevier County coordinator of SKYWARN. Well, and Aries EC.
All right, thanks, Ken. Appreciate you. And got you checked in there. Thank you, sir. Any others? Yeah, it's a long delay. All right, nothing heard. We will take check-ins here in a moment. Just a couple of quick announcements. No in-person SKYWARN spotter classes coming up. They've all been taken care of, at least for the spring season. If there are any that do come up, please check the National Weather Service's Morristown website. You can do a Google search on there, or you can go to etskywarn.com. We have a link there that you can click on to go and view any upcoming classes. You can take virtual spotter classes. It's virtual training where it's interactive. It walks you through, and you have an exam at the end of it, 10 questions. You pass it, and you'll be a SKYWARN spotter. It's not a requirement to check into any of our SKYWARN nets, but or to check into this net either. It's simply a good to have. Helps you to help us so that we can help the Weather Service. So, and also check the Nashville Weather 101. No other classes there. Looks like those classes have been gone through. So if there are any coming up in the fall, I'll be sure to pass them along. So with that, I don't have any other announcements. Does anybody wish to check in with any announcements, weather related, emergency service related? All right, nothing heard. With no further announcements, I'll start taking check-ins. Please check in one at a time and give your call sign phonetically using International Phonetics as the preferred method, as well as your name and location. Please do it again one at a time. We'll go ahead and start taking check-ins now. This is WX4TY. Stand by. Okay, had a nice double there. Kilo Oscar 4, Juliet Charlie Lima. Finish your check-in, and I didn't catch your location.
Kilo Oscar 4, Juliet Charlie Lima. Jeff
and Halls, Knox County, in and out.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Got you in there, and appreciate you. Who was the other station?
Kilo, Quebec 4, Zulu Zulu Papa, Rich out at Douglas Dam.
Okay, Rich got you in there. Kilo Oscar 4, Zulu Zulu Papa. Next check-in.
Recheck.
Go ahead.
Greg, I got the scribe, if you need me there, AA4WX.
Okay, yeah, if you want to go ahead, that's fine. I'll step aside here. I'll do the timestamps. Next check-in.
Kilo Romeo 4, Alpha X-Ray Echo, Joe, Seville.
Thank you. Good. Thank you, Joe. Got you in there, and appreciate you checking in. KR4AXE. Next check-in.
Kilo 4, Tango Mike Whiskey.
Kathy.
Sevier County, Knoxville, and Sevierville areas.
Would that be Seymour?
Yes, sir. And by relay, Kilo 4, Alpha Romeo Oscar, same data.
I love teasing her. All right, thanks, Kathy. Appreciate it, and good to hear you both tonight. And I would assume he is there with you in Seymour as well, right?
Could you repeat? I was handed a... Okay, yeah, yeah, we're both in Seymour.
WB4GBI, repeater.
Okay, I know you're close to that Tri-County line, so maybe he's in Sevier County and you're in Knox County, and you know your dog is in Blount County or something like that. But anyway, thanks again, Kathy, and glad to have you both in there tonight. Next check-in, please.
KC8CPW.
Got you, Jonathan. Where are you located?
Somewhere out in the middle of Blount County delivering Amazon packages.
Okay, well, didn't know you were moonlighting, but we'll talk about that later. Thanks, Jonathan. Good to hear you. Next check-in.
Net control. This is Kilo Charlie 4, Uniform Romeo Whiskey, also affiliated with Shelby County, Alabama, Aries Racing, KC4 URW.
Got you in there, Bob. KC4 URW and Pigeon Forge. And Shelby County, Alabama, Aries Races. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, gotcha. Thank you, sir. And appreciate you coming back to the area. And glad you're doing well there. Next check-in, please.
Kilo 4, Whiskey Yankee Charlie, Spring Clavering, County.
Kilo Quebec 4, Whiskey Yankee Charlie, Chris in Claiborne County. Is that correct?
It's affirmative.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Appreciate you being in there tonight. Any others?
Kilo Romeo 4, Charlie Sierra, Quebec, Ronnie from Morristown.
Thank you, Ronnie. Got you in there from Morristown. Kilo Romeo 4, Charlie Sierra, Quebec. Did I get the call sign correct?
10-4, yes.
Roger, Roger. Thank you, sir, and appreciate you. Next check-in, please. 10-4?
This is X-Ray Sierra, Paul up in Granger County.
Yeah, we got two in there. There was an X-Ray Sierra. Go ahead.
Whiskey 4, India X-Ray Sierra, Paul up in Granger County.
All right, Paul up in Granger. Got you in there. Who was the other station?
This is Kilo Quebec 4, Quebec Charlie Juliet, KQ4QCJ, Caleb in Tellico Plains, Monroe County.
Sorry. That's for Eric. All right, Caleb, got you in there. Tellico Plains, KQ4QCJ. Good to hear you tonight. Next check-in.
Good evening, Greg and Lynette. Kilo Oscar 4, Whiskey, India Lima, KO4, WIO, Will in Granger County.
Yeah, And hello to you, Will and Granger. Got you in there. I got you on Meshtastic, by the way. I don't know if you got my reply, but I did get you over there. I'm just curious real quick, did you get it?
Yes, sir, I did, but by the time I checked it, I was out of range, so I couldn't reply back.
Okay, well, that's the mesh life. All right, thanks again, and appreciate you checking in tonight. Next check-in, please.
Good evening, Greg. WB4 GBI Mobile.
WB4GBI, and you are...
Some guy that checks in. Evening, Greg.
Of course, the king, as you are in the log now. You're in the log as the king, so thanks. Good to hear you again. And of course, as you know, thanks for letting us commandeer the repeater during these severe weather nets. Next check-in, please.
Kilo Mike 4, Delta Mike Yankee, in Cott County. Name's Connor. I'm a registered spotter.
Just check in on the chat. Okay, Connor, got you in there from Cott County, KM4DMY. Sorry about that, had a little delay there. But appreciate you being in there tonight. Good to hear you. Any others? I already have you checked in on the log anyway. It's Ken up in, used to be in Boyd's Creek. He is now in Ohio. He's moved. All right, nothing heard? Well, with that, we will do a quick recap of the last month's activity. And then we'll go into a bit of a presentation that we have set up for you. Had a couple of pretty active weather events in the last couple of weeks. Back around, I think it was May the 16th. If I can pull up my information here. Yep. We did have a big event that was ongoing. It was there were several notifications that had been sent out from the Weather Service in advance. Fortunately, the worst that we got was quarter-sized hail, nickel-sized hail. Those reports came in. That was about the worst of it. There were some possibilities of tornadoes, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, that one did produce a tornado out in Roane County. Just a minor one, no injuries that I'm aware of, just some slight property damage. So that was good to hear on that. And then on May the 20th, we did have another seriously advanced prep event that came through, and I believe this was the one that may have produced the tornado out in Roane County. So, someone out there can correct me. And but there was a marginal to level 2 to level 3 risk of tornadic activity within a 25-mile range for most of the area, but fortunately, other than that one, I believe in Roane County on the 20th, nothing serious did occur from that, other than some hail reports and some heavy wind reports. There was a third-party tornado that was reportedly spotted around Edgemore Road near Oak Ridge, but there's been no confirmation that anything happened there. And previous to that, we did have a non-weather event. Back on the 10th of May, we had an earthquake. It was centered near, the epicenter was near the tail of the dragon over there going into Fontana and North Carolina. But there was a magnitude 4, if I'm not mistaken. Someone can correct me on that, 4 or 4.1. No injuries, minor damage. Just a lot of people get literally shaken up. But fortunately, that was the worst of it. We did take some check-ins on that one, and just got some reports. We did send a couple of reports to the Weather Service, although they technically don't handle earthquake reports. That does belong to the U.S. Geological Survey, USGS. But they did pass some of these reports on to the USGS from the Weather Service. All right. With that, any questions or any comments about the previous weather events that we had ongoing? WX4TYS. Wet my whistle. All right. Nothing heard. Any other check-ins? We'll stop. Take a quick breather here to take any more check-ins, and then we'll continue on. I do have somebody on YouTube. We are live streaming on YouTube, by the way. If anyone's curious, just look up District 5 Training Net on YouTube, and you should see it. But if for some reason you can't key up, or you're out of range, or not licensed but just listening, you can check in via YouTube. So with that, we'll stand by for any further check-ins. WX4TY, standing by.
Kilo Oscar 4, November Foxtrot Alpha.
Acknowledging KO4 NFA. What's your name and location, please?
My name is Doug. I'm over here in Knoxville in the Rocky Hill area. I think North Shore and Morrell.
Okay, Doug got you in there from Rocky Hill. Thank you, sir, and appreciate you checking in tonight. Just real quick, I know there's some storms that have come through the area. Nothing severe. No warnings have been issued. No special weather statements are active at this time, except for one out Cock and Greene counties. Let me read that one off real quick.
WB4GBI repeater.
Strong thunderstorm will impact central Cock and southwestern Greene counties through 8:45 Eastern Daylight Time. At 8:01, about 17 minutes ago, Doppler radar was tracking a strong storm near Parrottsville or 7 miles northeast of Newport, moving east at 20 miles per hour. Wind gusts of up to 40 miles per hour and penny-sized hail, as indicated by radar, are the hazards. Gusty winds could knock down tree limbs and blow around unsecured objects. Minor hail damage to vegetation is possible. Locations impacted include Newport, Parrottsville, Caney Branch, Del Rio, Bybee, and Cedar Creek. If outdoors, consider seeking shelter. Persons in campgrounds should consider seeking sturdy shelter until the storm passes. So that is in effect for the Smoky Mountains in Cock County, in Greene County, and parts of northwestern Greene County. So if you're up in those areas, do use caution. If anybody has any severe weather reports or any damage reports or anything weather related or any emergency traffic during this training net, use the brake indicator. Just check in or key up and say brake, and then we'll acknowledge you, and then you can give us your report. So we'll pause the net if we need to at that time. But right now everything's kind of holding off. So with that, real quick, just do another standby for check-ins before we move into the next part of our net.
KQ4 YXW, that's Kilo Quebec 4 Yankee X-ray Whiskey. Name is Liz, and North Knox County, and Meters affiliate.
Acknowledging KQ4YXW, Liz in North Knoxville. Thank you very much, and appreciate you being there tonight. Next check-in, please. a 118.8 tone with a repeater. All right, nothing heard.
Net control question.
Question, go ahead.
This is NFA KO4 NFA. I was trying to find you on YouTube, and I'm not pulling you up. Could you tell us how to find you on YouTube again?
Are you on our Facebook group by chance?
Negative. I probably should be. I'm interested in participating more. I have been spotter trained, but that is what it is. So no, I need to get on the Facebook page.
That's fine. You can find us on Facebook at SKYWARN. That's our Facebook group. That's the URL at the end of the Facebook URL. Just type in SKYWARN. I think you can find it that way. The YouTube channel, if you look, it's under my name, Greg Williams, and it's titled East Tennessee SKYWARN District 5 Training Net, and today's date, 1st of June 2025. See if you can search for it that way, and if you still have trouble looking for it, then let me know and I'll see if I can pass it on to you, like through email or something like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for checking in with us. Any others? All right, nothing heard. Thank you very much. We will go ahead and now move it on to the next part of our check-in, or of our net after the check-ins. Sorry about that. We're going to have a bit of a presentation about the role of SKYWARN in the, and understanding the emergency nets as it pertains to our roles as ham operators. I've got help with that. Brandon, KG4QWI, has volunteered under duress to give us a training session for this. So, Brandon, if you're ready, we'll pass it over.
Under duress, I like it, KG4QWI. Good afternoon, everybody, and we'll get started off. I just want to cover a couple of things regarding SKYWARN, understanding what the emergency nets are. Greg and I are going to kind of hand off back and forth a little bit, so bear with us. But if you're not familiar with SKYWARN, and I think everyone on here should, it is definitely a public service driven by dedicated weather enthusiasts. It's operated, however, by the National Weather Service, which is a government organization, and it is the mission to collect localized reports of severe weather to enhance forecasting accuracy and to improve public alert systems. Although many SKYWARN volunteers are hobbyists, amateur radio operators, or not, their role is critical. Timely and accurate reports can save lives and protect property. During severe weather events, SKYWARN nets validate official warnings with real-time, ground-level observations, helping the National Weather Service, emergency officials, and the public respond effectively.
Is his volume good, everybody?
Let's talk about misconceptions. Some may view that SKYWARN is a bit of a redundancy, repeating information that's already available through either NOAA radio or being broadcast to your phone directly, or even through media outlets. In reality, this repetition ensures vital messages reach all necessary parties, reinforcing situational awareness for trained spotters and for first responders. Like a radio repeater, our role is to extend the signal, not to originate it. Cover a real-world example here. Recently, our team detected some rotation ahead of a tornadic storm. Our team relayed this critical information, which supported the issuance of a tornado warning. This timely action demonstrated the unique value of SKYWARN, especially during staffing shortages or technical disruptions. It was clear example of how trained volunteers can support and even enhance the official capacities of the National Weather Service. SKYWARN is more than just reporting. It's about collaboration. Nets spark discussion. It raises important questions, and it brings to attention weather phenomenon that may otherwise go unnoticed. These conversations often lead to warnings and may help guide emergency responses. I'm going to go off the script for just a moment here.
Uh-oh.
One of the things that we can do through amateur radio, and I didn't put this in and now I'm thinking about it, I should have, but one of the things that we can do through amateur radio is we're a little different than what the warnings are. The warnings give you a county-by-county breakdown of where the warning is issued at, and it also gives you the cities that'll be impacted. But when you're hearing from other spotters what they're actually experiencing in the moment, that information is critical. It really helps support or emphasize the significance of what weather is occurring at that time. And I don't think that is a statement that's made strong enough. With that said, I want to also explain what an emergency net is. There are different types of nets. To operate effectively within the SKYWARN framework, it's essential to understand the structure and purpose of amateur radio nets. Nets fall into two primary categories. There's an informal net, one that's open to general traffic, and operators, there's also emergency nets, which operators must yield to the emergency nets as mandated by the FCC regulations. A formal net, which is where an emergency net would fall under, can be more than just an emergency net. It can be a social or a roundtable discussion, fostering conversations and community. It can be a training net, just like tonight, provide some practice for emergency procedures. But emergency nets are activated during critical events, and these nets are to handle life safety communications only. During an emergency net, only traffic related to life, safety, and property should be transmitted. If your message is not urgent, you should yield the frequency. This allows the standard traffic priority, or this follows the standard traffic priority system. Emergency traffic always comes first. Priority traffic comes second. Welfare checks come third. And then routine, non-emergency, non-priority, and non-welfare checks come last. This hierarchy ensures the most critical information gets through without a delay. Our role as amateurs. Though we are not professionals, our responsibilities demand professional level standards. In times of crisis, we support emergency services. That is what the whole amateur radio community is about. We often step in when infrastructure fails. This requires us to train, to have discipline, and a strong commitment to communication best practices. The role of the net control operator is central to effectiveness of the emergency net. They manage information flow. They assign stations important tasks. They authorize relays to occur. They maintain operational order. Their decisions guide operators in the real time of proper flow of information. WB4GB repeater.
We'll expand on some of this here in a minute.
And this is WX4TYS KG4QWI, the District 5 SKYWARN net. Under FCC Part 97, Subpart E, amateur operators are permitted to communicate on behalf of emergency agencies during disasters. During such operations, all other activities must yield to emergency traffic. Repeater owners should prioritize SKYWARN operations within their systems, especially as they're designated as a primary or backup. If the National Weather Service in Morristown office becomes unavailable, coverage may shift to a different office. This can include Nashville, Tennessee, Jackson, Kentucky, Blacksburg, Virginia, or Huntsville, Alabama. These behind-the-scene relays ensure continuity of communication. What you guys may not see behind our scenes, and this is one of the things that's great about the streaming that we're doing now, you can see the net logs, the information that's being passed along, but you don't see this in the radio world. You don't hear the background information that's going on. Right now, I think we have altogether maybe 3 or 4 people that are working this net actively. You've got a scribe in the background, which Josh is doing, Greg that's giving our presentation right now. But during an active net, we've got operators that are monitoring radar. They're talking with the National Weather Service. We're relaying information up. A scribe is logging the information, and then you've got your net control that's operating the net. There's a lot of things that go on in the background, and it's crucial to maintaining our high standards and ensuring the effective response. I'm going to let Greg present to you some recent incidents incidents where SKYWARN efforts have made a measurable impact on the community, including several life-saving actions. Following Greg's presentation, I'll cover the importance of some operational disciplines and ongoing training. Greg, hand it off to you.
All right, thank you, Brandon. And when we get done here with this, I want to expand on a few things that you covered here, just and a little bit of clarification. There may have been some confusion, but just not in what you said, but just to alleviate that confusion. But just a couple of examples of how we make a difference. I did want to present that to everybody here. That your actions, not just ours. I don't want to make it sound like we're blowing a trumpet or anything like that. But I mean, it's all of our actions that contribute to the greater good when it comes to community service. This SKYWARN is one of the many ways that you can contribute to helping your community. And I've had in the recent nets that we had in the recent situations, you may recall, I think it was the 16th. I believe it was the 16th, because if I'm not mistaken, it was during the Dayton Hamvention weekend. That's the one that I was. We didn't get any tornadoes here, but of course London, Somerset, Kentucky got devastated by those. And I wanted to pass this along. We didn't have that kind of action here, but somebody did send me this message on Discord, and they went out of their way to do it. I've redacted their name and call sign. I don't want to call anybody out specifically here, but these are the things that we get from time to time. That he said that he's new to ham radio, new to SKYWARN. He's always been interested in weather. Once he got his ham license, he took the SKYWARN class. It was one of the first things he did as a ham operator. His son lives in London, Kentucky, and he is safe in large part because while this person was listening to the nets that we were doing on the 694 repeater, he kept an eye out for his son on both phone apps, Radar Omega and Radar Scope. He was using them on his phone as well as listening to us, and he was able to get his son out of harm's way, and he's a huge believer in SKYWARN. And of course he thanked us for the service he provided, and after the other night he may well owe his son's life to SKYWARN and the folks like us. So I don't take credit alone for anything, and I'm sure a lot of you know that. I can't do anything without a team of assistants and net control stations, and we can't do this without you as spotters, as our check-ins, as our spotters, as our eyes out there. So some people do pass on the kudos to me. I try to make sure everybody out there hears it in some way or another. And then now that was after the situation in London, Kentucky. After the situation we had last week, I think it was the 20th, if I recall the date correctly. Somebody passed along that they live in Knoxville and they possess a technician class ham license. They never made a QSO or anything of that sort, at least not yet. But he wanted to reach out and thank us for the work that we did as net controls for the SKYWARN net that we conducted. His area was not significantly affected by the storms and in the outcome, but during the event, his family was quite frightened about what was going on. It was a pretty threatening situation, and they were pretty concerned about it as the storm passed over. But then, and at one point, their television signal cut out. Now I don't know if they were on cable, if they were on satellite TV, or what they were using. Over the air could have been. But they were in the dark on what the weather was doing and how the conditions were in their location. And he had the presence of mind to grab his radio and go to the shelter, and he turned on the radio and was able to listen to our net and get an idea of what was going on. which helped him to comfort his family members as well as himself. And he wanted to thank us for the service that we offer to the community. It does make a difference, and it does help people. So these are two examples of how we make a difference. And when I say, again, I'll say it again. When I say we, I mean not just me. I'm talking about the net control stations. I'm talking about you as the spotters. Even if you're just listening and not checking in, at least you're aware that we are there, and that you can rely on us to bring you the information, and you in turn can let us know so that we can let the National Weather Service know. So your reports make a difference. There is an example of that. Going off script. One of the special weather statements that was issued during the last severe weather event specifically cited one of the reports that we passed on to them about quarter-sized hail in the South Knoxville area. So they did issue a special weather statement. It wasn't severe. It wasn't in the severe category because of the winds, but the hail did get them to issue a special weather statement. So if you needed evidence that it made a difference there, that's your proof there. So with that, Brandon, if you want to continue on, WX4TYS.
Absolutely. I'll say it's common that we hear the feedback after the events happen, and unfortunately we don't always get to share it completely with the team. I know we try to do that through our social media. We also try to do it through our Discord. But you guys play such a huge role into this. It's hard to try and cover it all into a small pocket of time on the radio, but the presentations, when you get a chance to either see Greg's full presentation at some of the Hamfest or what the National Weather Service shows, like our information that we pass on is so essential in validating whether those warnings are accurate or if they need to be issued. Keeping in mind that there's several obstructions of the radar, and the further that you get away, the more obstructions there is. You guys may be aware that recently Morristown went through an upgrade, and their radar system was down temporarily during that upgrade. So as that was pulling from a different office, every report that we pass up is essential to them, because the further you get away from the radio, the radar antenna itself, the less accurate that it is. So I just can't emphasize that enough, that all the information that gets provided, it does make a difference, and we hear that directly from the meteorologists. We see that in real-time communications, and we don't always have the opportunity to pass that back down to you guys, but it does make a difference. Before I close out our training session tonight, there's just a few final reminders that I want to pass on. When you're participating in SKYWARN and you're doing so on amateur radio, it is a net. So try to remember that you represent not just amateur radio, but you are representing the National Weather Service and the broader emergency response community. Follow all the instructions from the net control. They're going to tell you exactly what is needed, and we pivot based on what is happening in that moment. If we have just some special weather statements out, or if the warnings are starting to tailor off, you'll see us tend to go a little bit more to a social side. That's fine in the moment, but the net control, if they escalate up, they're probably seeing something on radar, or they're receiving information in the background from meteorologists that may not have been published to the radio or to the general public just yet. So just keep that in mind, that there's a lot of activity that's working in the background, and the net control is absolutely going to know what's most appropriate during that time. So follow their instructions and avoid any unnecessary chatter when, especially, we have multiple warnings that are going on. It's difficult for us to get those warnings out in a timely manner. And it's important for us to repeat or relay those warnings as they come out. WB4GBI repeater. BX4TYS KG4QWI with the District 5 SKYWARN Training Net. It's important for us to get those warnings out. One recent event I think we forgot to put into this presentation, Greg, if you don't mind, I'll add, is NOAA the radio went down unexpectedly in a coverage area, or an area that we cover. And when that happens, all of a sudden the warning feed goes down. There can be delay in cell phones. Not no way the radio goes down and there is severe weather that leads up into that area, a cell tower could be taken down before it even reaches where that spotter is at or where the general public is at. And keep in mind, just because you're on amateur radio doesn't mean that your audience is only amateur radio. What we often hear, and sometimes we'll even see, is media will cite us, or they will repeat information that's been broadcasted on amateur radio. It is a community service, and it is open and available, unencrypted emergency communication, so anybody from the public can listen to it. I know I was an avid listener for several years before even obtaining my amateur radio license, and it was because of SKYWARN that I did so. So please, again, just want to remind you, avoid unnecessary chatter during a formal net. Provide clear, concise, and relevant reports. Those reports should include the type of weather, what your location is and the severity, your call signs phonetically, and your name and exact location. And I put those in backwards order, so forgive me. When you are checking in, just like when you check into the net tonight, it should be your call sign, and we want that phonetically and to ensure that we've got the record correct. Once you've given your call sign phonetically, we want your exact location, and then we want the time and what event occurred. So for an example, if recently we had a station that was reporting some flooding that occurred, and I believe the report came in that there was water, or there was an evacuation of some mobile homes or RVs due to water that was rising. They were able to tell us that it was 30 minutes prior to, I think, if memory serves me correct. And that's important because what happens is we're going to take that local storm report, or what the meteorologist calls an LSR, and they're going to go back to the historical radar and look to see what radar recorded in that downfall, or so to speak. And so it's important for us to know what you're reporting and what time that it happened in.
I knew it was TLC. I can't remember what the C specifically meant.
Balancing
Help me, Scott.
participation with disciplined communication helps protect lives and property. Every event offers a chance to refine our methods and improve our responsiveness. And because of that, that's what allows us to bring you the more polished and the more up-to-date training as we go through it each week. SKYWARN is more than a service, it's a responsibility, and it's one that we all proudly share. Greg, I'll hand it back off to you. Appreciate the opportunity to present tonight and see if there's any questions. KG4, QWI.
Tommy, A4, WX.
Yeah, thanks for that, Brandon, and appreciate you there. Real quick before we get to the comments and such, I do want to pause real quick. Does anybody want to try and check into the net? If so, please call now. WX4 TYS.
KG4, ZBM, Kilo Golf 4, Zulu, Bravo Mike, East, Greenback.
Okay, Keith, got you in there, and appreciate you. Any others?
Kilo Romeo 4, Charlie Victor India.
Got you in there, Keith. Thank you, Keith. Got you. Or, I'm sorry, John. Sorry. I heard Keith. Now I got John, and you're in Del Rio, John. Thank you, sir. And just so that everybody knows, he's given me permission. He was one of those that gave me the message to pass along that we helped him keep his family safe. So, John, did you want to expand on that, or do you have anything extra to add to that?
Yeah, I can do that. I think not only my son got out of the way that night, but his girlfriend and children that were at the movie theater in Somerset. Had her and allowed them to get out of the theater and relax. So, SKYWARN
Okay, John, thanks for the kind words. Your signal got noisy at times, and the static kind of covered you up. I know. I mean, you're coming into us on an HT from Del Rio, but we got the message there, and I for one am glad that your family and your son, and I think you said his girlfriend. I'm glad everybody up there is safe, and glad that we were able to contribute to that in some degree. So thanks for letting us know, and thanks for helping us out, and giving us those kind words. It gives us a level of support that goes a long way. With that, any other check-ins before we move on to discussion here?
This is Kilo Oscar 4, Echo Victor Charlie, Marcus in Johnson City.
Acknowledging Marcus in Johnson City, KO4 Echo Victor Charlie. Is that correct?
Roger, roger.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate you, and glad you were able to check in. Sound good from Johnson City. Any others? All right, nothing heard. Josh, go ahead with your comments there. And real quick, I did want to expand on a couple of things that Brandon was talking about earlier, but I'll let Josh go first. We'll open up the discussion.
Evening, Greg, everybody. AA4WX here. I know Brandon a moment ago gave over what we need to know and things like that. A lot of times, if I'm not calling the net, I'm typically in the scribe role. And one thing that I have noticed around here, and in my opinion, my humble opinion, this is a very bad habit, but it is what it is. A lot of people are starting to check into our SKYWARN nets with just the suffix, and I know some people out there call that a tactical call. That does not help SKYWARN. We need to be quick and efficient and that kind of thing when it comes to this scribe, because I'm having to I start typing, then I have to stop typing, then I have to erase everything and type it all over again because you've only given your suffix. That may be okay on some nets, especially the informal nets, Lunch Bunch, 470, things like that. Great, those are all great nets, by the way. But in an emergency net, we need to know full call sign phonetically up front. Expanding on that as well, it's not good radio, what's the word I'm looking for? Not ethics. Anyway, it's not good radio practice to go, this is AA4WX. That kind of defeats the purpose a little bit. And I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to make sure that you've got the repeater. But you're better off just going ahead and saying, this is AA4WX. Josh in Eagleton Village. Something like that. One solid transmission rather than the this is and then going into your call sign in a separate transmission. So anyway, I thought I'd add that from the scribe's perspective, and appreciate the presentation Brandon has done so far. It is absolutely phenomenal. Something that we've needed to do for quite some time. Back to you, Greg. AA4WX.
All right, thank you, WX4TYS. Did somebody jump in there?
Yeah, and see, I did it wrong. KG4QWI. Josh makes a great point. In the time that you say this is, you could have put your call sign out there. If you wanted to have a drop in order to ensure that you're not doubling, you could just put your call sign out there phonetically, drop, and then if you don't hear another station, continue on or allow the net control to recognize you. But the deleting this is and the call sign would do the exact same practice. And I'm bad about doing that myself. I'm bad about using the suffix call or the tactical call of just tossing out QWI and then going with my formal information. process for me to do that, and even catch myself doing it, and then kind of have to have that reminder to go back to the correct process. If that doesn't, I guess, humble you guys, and it does me, just know, like, even we continue to make mistakes, even at the most, if you will, I guess, organized level of crime that we do here. We tend to make those mistakes on our own, and that's what the training and that's what the revisit is. That's why sometimes we do playbacks and how we come up with our training materials. So, excellent, Josh. I think that was fantastic to bring up. KG4QWI.
WB4GBI repeater.
Yeah, this is WX4TYS, and I'm not one to throw stones here, because some, now, if you've checked into the net, and Josh, you can, we can have this discussion too. If you've already checked into the net and you're rechecking in to give us an update or a quick follow-up, that's fine. I as me doing net control, I'm fine with that. I've checked in before, like if I'm net control and I have to run to the little storm spotters room for a break, and then I come back, I'll say something like HSM, I'm back, or something to that effect, because I've already checked in and they know that I'm there. So that's one way that I've used the suffix before. Josh, what do you think about that?
AA4WX, I'm totally fine with that. The best thing, the real thing that I'm referring to is the initial check-in, especially when we're taking a boatload of check-ins at a time. The initial check-in, go ahead and do one transmission phonetically with your call sign, break up the this is, and give us the full call, or go ahead and do this is AA4WX, or Alpha Alpha 4 Whiskey X-Ray, Josh and Marable, then drop. And that's the best methodology, I said. If you are rechecking, then yeah, suffix I think is okay. Suffix, then when you're acknowledged, then give your full call. I think that answers your question there, Greg. AA4WX.
Yeah, Roger. Any questions or comments about it?
K4.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think where this is, and then drop it, and then pick it back up, came from our training in meters.
Well, yeah, it comes from, it's good, 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. It's good to eliminate doubling, but also, that pause could be, when seconds count. So it's a fine line that you have to walk. So, and this is not a knock on any other emergency training. This is not a knock on any other nets. It's just SKYWARN is one of the bigger emergency nets that we actually perform here in this region, and so and as we've seen in the recent weeks, seconds do count when it comes to getting the word out, getting the message out, trying to get people informed, or to get the National Weather Service informed on what's going on. Any way that we can trim those delays, I think is helpful. But again, 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. And it's understandable. You don't want to be doubling with somebody and just making that much harder for the net control. But Josh, you want to add to that?
Yeah, Roger, absolutely. I'm going with what true FCC practice is taught. KA3WYE, Tim Michelli, most everybody knows him. He is a very big stickler for FCC rules, and so is Tim Barry, and also amateur radio practice, so to speak, standard practice. And I understand meters may teach it that way. move on to the next line. Back to net control. AA4WX.
Comment.
That you type slow. Anyway, go ahead, Brandon.
Josh types a lot faster than I can, so I can't say he types slow. But I'm glad that this was brought up. I can say this goes well back before I even had knowledge of meters. This was a big thing in Tri-Cities when I was over District 7. It is if you will, a formal introduction into a controlled net. So you will hear us say this is WX4TYS, assuming net control. It's in our net script. And when we have a pattern of formalized behavior that we follow on a regular basis, then it is natural, if you will, for the operators to respond in the same formal process. If I reach my hand out to shake your hand, you're generally going to put your hand out to shake mine. If I put a fist out, you're going to fist bump. If I put my hand up, you're going to give me a high five. Behavior's repetitive, and so I want to call that out, or at least acknowledge that, because if you slip and say this is, we're not going to berate you, beat you down, or even take offense to it. That's where the training comes into this wonderful process of us being able to try and refine it. But it's in our net script, and maybe we revisit that and consider taking it out. But it is what I believe comes from a formal introduction of a net control, assuming control of the repeater for a formal net. And I think that's where that originated from, although I could be wrong, but I really think that our practice in doing that as the net controller almost images or it gets reflected by the operator to do the same. So that's something we can revisit offline, but I just wanted to point that out. We're not going to be upset if you do it. It's just, it's a process that we would like to try and trim down, and that's what we use the training nets for. KG4QWI.
All right, thank you, Brandon. Any other comments to that? From anywhere? WX4TYS.
Comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is Kilo Oscar 4, Echo Victor Charlie. Good discussion going on right here. I was just interested, the gentleman that said part of the rules, I'm more, could he specifically spot those out? Because I'm interested in where it says that. I'm a rule stickler myself, and I would like to read up on that.
I think it was Josh. Go ahead.
It was me, AA4WX. I don't know specifically where those rules came from. All I know is I have heard it both out of Tim Berry, WB4GBI, those of you that don't know, he's the repeater owner here, and I've also heard it from KA3WYE. And if there's anybody that knows FCC rules, it's going to be both them gentlemen. One of them is a broadcast engineer for his whole career, and the other one is a radio technician for the state of Tennessee. So both of them are going to know. I would like to divert to them. I know Tim was in, but I bet he may be out. Barry may be in, but I have not heard KE3WYE. If either of them are on frequency, if you want to chime in on that particular etiquette, that's the word I've been looking for. That particular etiquette, where it comes from, I would be curious to know that as well. Back to that AA4WX.
Any of the Tims listening? WX4TYS. Tim, or Tim?
Kilo 4 Bravo X-Ray Mike, Brett out of Sevierville. I was just wondering, are we talking about whether or not we should say this is at the beginning? Is that all?
Josh, go ahead.
Well, we're talking about two different things. We're talking about, yes, the this is, and then the break, and then their call sign. We're talking about that, but we're also talking about the use of just a suffix to check into a net. Those are the two issues at hand here.
Yeah, go ahead. Waiting for Brett.
So let's explain the reasoning, I think. Let's pause there and kind of go back to the reasoning. After this, and if you see the Discord I'm streaming right now, you know that I came from a lot of investigative work and rules, laws, regulations. It's kind of one of my passions. One thing that I've always shared with people is never tell a gun owner what the rules are on gun rights. They'll correct you real quick. If you are to go and look at the FCC regulations, you're not going to see, I highly doubt that you're going to see, at least I've not found it, this is identified in the FCC regulations. What the regulation states is that the station must identify, and it must identify at its initial transmission and every 10 minutes thereafter. When a repeater identifies, it doesn't necessarily say, but it can on a voice ID that this is, and the repeater ID. What we're trying to do, though, is to get into the intent of the communication. The intent is to be as clear and as concise so we can get off of the radio and allow for emergency brake traffic to come in or priority traffic to be passed. So in the spirit of the rules and regulations, the only requirement is that you identify, and we ask that you do it phonetically to assist our net script. But rather than get into the rules and regulations, I think the spirit is what we're trying to identify here, and the spirit and intent of the net is clear, concise information. So to be as concise as possible, that's why we want to eliminate introductions, allowing the repeater to drop, or, we just want to get that traffic and make the repeater available for the next station. And there's been, in emergency communications, I'm going to let it recycle.
WB4GBI repeater.
KG4QWI. If you listen to the professionals, if you will, if you listen to emergency communications, they don't identify their unit as this is unit 214 or unit 1618. And so we are trying to mimic, if you will, or mirror the professional standards that they institute, because we're a service to them if their communications go down. So it's not a backlash, it's not a formality or a enforcement of rules and regulations that we're trying to push here. It's the spirit and the intent of concise communications and then moving on to the next station. And I hope that helps alleviate any confusion. KG4QWI, thank you.
Comment.
Yeah, Brett, does that help you out there, BXM?
Makes sense to me. I was just wondering. K4BXM.
Yeah, Roger. The comment go?
KQ4CCP. I've got to say, I've been listening to everything. First of all, I'm so grateful for listening to all of you and learning so much. But just now, that was put so well, and it's right to the point. I think of emergency communications. I'm involved in other ways with EMA, CERT, etc. But that was put so well, and I just want to compliment all of you.
Yeah, go ahead there, Brandon.
Just say thank you, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. And I appreciate the feedback on that. Definitely appreciate it. KG4QW. KC8CPW.
Yeah, go ahead, Jonathan.
Hey, great discussion, guys. I've been listening. One thing I do want to add, since we're talking about station identification, you'll hear it a lot in just casual conversations. You'll hear people say, give their call sign and say for ID. Early on in my amateur radio career, that was nipped in the bud real quick. Your call sign is your ID. There's no need to add that to the end of your transmission. That's all I got. Good conversation, guys. KC8CPW Mobile.
Yeah, Roger. In the end, it's going to be up to the net control, really, and it's going to be up to the organization. Because on Monday nights, if you listen to M-tiers, you know how they have their nets and their protocols. It's it almost sounds like we're being hypocritical, because what they want you to do to check into the M-tiers net is say the county. So like I would say Knox County, then I would unkey, to make sure that I'm not doubling, and to allow them to key up all the I think there's about 36 repeaters that are across the state that have to be keyed up. Then allows them to all key up and sync up at the same time, and then key back up and start giving your information. So there's that aspect of it as well. But since we're not on a linked repeater system, we're just a standalone repeater. Don't necessarily need to do that for the purpose of syncing up all the additional repeaters on the line. But at the same time, again, what are we trying to do? We just want to go ahead and get the message out without like I said earlier, when seconds count. That's what we're going for. But again, it's I don't think it's an FCC regulation. I think it's just trying to make the communications just go through a little bit faster, so that we can be even more responsive than what we already are in terms of these communications. Any other comments?
Go on, man.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. K4HSM, WX4TY.
Sounds to me like it's just about having efficient communications. I have absolutely no problem with that. Whether or not it's regulation or not, it's kind of irrelevant, K4BX,
Yeah, more or less there. One other thing I did want to just highlight real quick. Sorry, I had to unkey to cough. So that's another thing. If you have to cough, you don't want to do it over the radio. You spread your virus. Anyway, Brandon was talking earlier about informal nets. It says open to general traffic. It says operators must yield to emergency communications. And then talking about formal nets during, like emergency nets. Informal nets could be like a tech net, could be a trader's net, could be just a chit-chat net, whatever, a rag chew net. Could be a swap and shop type net, anything like that. Those type of nets where it's just kind of a round table type discussion. I think the lunch bunch nets are very informal. It's just a group that's just all gathering together to rag chew. But even then, they must yield to any emergency communication. So if somebody comes in with an emergency traffic, not just necessarily weather related, but like maybe they're priority traffic, like their car broke down, or they're stuck in a ditch, or they're up in the mountains and they're lost. If someone were to key up with a urgent communication, they should pause at whatever the normal traffic is and handle those emergency communications accordingly. Whereas with a formal net, I think that was you, Josh. Whereas with a formal net, there's already a formalized structure, and then you still yield to the emergency communications, but you're already in that mode to listen for emergency communications, just in the nature there. Was that you, Josh?
Yeah, A4WX. Just wanted to say a real life example of a net being yielded for an emergency situation. While maybe not the most efficient manner, but there was a situation, I guess it's been 2 or 3 months ago now, with a Dixie Traders net with potential cave, what do you call it,
scope backs. All right, thank you, Josh. Any comments or questions? WX4TYS. All right, nothing heard. Any late check-ins that wish to be acknowledged? We'll take them now. WX4TYS.
Good evening, Net Control. November 2, Alpha Lima. Andrew and Maribel.
Okay, Andrew, got you in there. Got you in there from the Discord earlier. November 2, Alpha Lima. Thanks for checking in. Any others?
November 2, Golf, Sierra, Romeo. This is Gavin in Oak Ridge.
Okay, Gavin, got you. Gavin or Kevin? I'm sorry.
Gavin, Golf.
Gavin with a golf. All right, thank you, sir. And got you in there from Oak Ridge. No, that's November 2, GSR. Thank you, sir. Next check-in. All right, nothing heard. Last call for any questions or comments about the discussions we've had tonight. Floor is open.
KG4QWI.
Yeah, go ahead there, Brandon. Floor is open to anybody but
I know I'm
Brandon.
going to get hate mail over this here in a minute, so let me provide some clarity here. It was mentioned that this came from the meters net. I'm going to back up and say no. This came from CW, so Morse code. As long as amateur radio has been around, DE KG4QWI. It's shorthand in Morse code, but just so nobody sends any hate mail out there. It's what we call optional additions, like stating where you're located at, your mobile, you're not transmitting that in APRS. Those are all optionals, right? And as we said, I think we covered that earlier. We just want to try and trim that out when it's a major net going on, or we've got the emergency traffic we're trying to handle, or there's a potential for it. And I think Josh brought up a really good point about hoaxes being somebody that came from public communications, emergency communications before. I can't tell you how many fake calls or bomb threats or hoax calls that you get. It's frustrating, but you have to handle those as if they're real until you can prove otherwise. So it's just one of those fundamental things. Again, we want to mimic the professional services that we serve. We are amateurs, but amateurs, we strive to be professionals. I think it's been a wonderful conversation. Thanks so much. KG4QWI.
WB4GBI repeater.
Net Control.
Yeah, go ahead, Kathy.
That's interesting you guys should be talking about this, because when we first moved here, I was told to say this is, because it wasn't my habit, because we didn't do it in Virginia. But it was the habit here, and it's nice to know that that came from CW. And so anyway, so that's how I was trained. So now I can ditch it. Yay! Thank you.
Well, ditch it as long as it's not something that they want on the on whatever nets that you're participating in. When I first got my license, way back in 1993, one of the first nets I listened to was the Southeastern Link repeater net, which still goes on, I believe, on the Peach Ross repeater. That's the closest one. But the Southeastern Link repeater net had you do that. That was one of the first things they told everybody to do, is say this is, and unkey to 1, check for doubling, and 2, allow all the repeaters on that linked repeater system to sync up, and then give your information. So it is something that is and is not a it seems more formality. Sometimes it's method driven, sometimes it's process driven, sometimes it's considered a necessity to allow all the repeaters along a linked net to to key up and be ready to go. But there is that issue of preventing of doubling. So I think, in the end, it's going to be up to the net control and to the nets themselves. However, whether it's emergency services or otherwise, how they want to handle it, how they want to process it. If they want you to do that, that's their prerogative. WX4 TYS. Anyone else?
Comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here for AXE. Actually, it tells you in the general exam that to the question of which of the following indicates that you are looking for an HF contact with any station. Repeat CQ a few times, followed by this is, then your call sign a few times, then pause to listen, repeat as necessary. So it's actually one of the questions on the general exam, and it tells you to use this is.
Now, that's on HF, though, right?
Yeah, it does say that it is for HF. I just knew I'd seen it somewhere, because, everybody knows I've been studying for my general.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on HF, yeah, you would say something to that effect. This is K4HSM, but like what we're talking about is when you key up and the only thing that you say is this is, unkey, rekey, say your call sign. I think that's more the gist of what we're doing here. On HF nets, depending on the HF net, it could be it could be entertaining.
This is true. I listen to a lot of them on 40 meters, and they're all very entertaining some nights. But yeah, I just remembered seeing that it said this is, and so I was flipping through my study guide real quick to find out where it was.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a great discussion, and I'm sure it'll be discussed way way into the future, and but it's not illegal. It's not illegal. That's not what we're going after here. It's not illegal to do this. It's just in the essence of time. If we're when seconds count, what we're trying to do is come up with the most efficient way to do it. So, but at the end of the day, people are going to do what they're going to do, and we'll as a net control, I'll try and herd the chickens as best as I can, but otherwise, like I said, it's going to be up to the individual nets how they want to conduct themselves. It's going to be up to the individual users as check-ins how they want to conduct themselves. So you got to find that right marriage. Anything else? Anyone? Floor is still open. WX4TYS.
Comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sounds like herding cats, not chickens.
I'm allergic to cats.
No, I didn't realize y'all was talking about saying this is and then unkeying and then continuing. I misunderstood K4BXM.
Well, it was two things. It was that, and it was the use of suffixes first. Like I said, I've done it myself. So, like I said, I'm not throwing stones. Nobody's throwing stones at it. It's just one of those things. But yeah, appreciate you coming in here. It's welcome conversation. Anyone else?
I have a question, unrelated, if y'all are open to it.
Absolutely, go ahead.
Heard there was a pretty bad incident down in Gatlinburg. I just got on probably 3 hours after it happened. Did y'all hear anything about that?
I heard of a multi-vehicle wreck in Gatlinburg, which I find to be almost impossible. Because have you driven through Gatlinburg on a Sunday?
Every day. Comment.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how this happened. Comment, go.
KR4AXE. Me and my wife have been following that. They say that the driver of the initial car either had a seizure or heart attack and ran into multiple vehicles and pedestrians.
Ah. Oh boy, I have not heard that. The reason I've not heard of it because my mind has been distracted with what's going on in Denver, because both of my daughters are in Denver right now, and one of them is moving there the other one is actually flying back right now as we speak. So that's been on my thoughts all day. But if anybody's, I hope nobody got killed. But that sounds like a pretty serious situation.
What was like 3 were sent via helicopter UT and 3 to local hospitals via ambulance.
Yeah, Roger. I'm sure we'll hear more about it later. Anybody? I think there was a double in there, or someone trying to.
Yep, that was me, Kilo 4 Tango Mike Whiskey. We were in the area within 5 minutes of it actually happening, and saw 2 ambulances. We were going up the hill or going north, and they were coming. 2 of the ambulances were coming south. So yes, the traffic was bad. We were wondering what the slowdown was, and when we got to 321, we went ahead and peeled off there. And I think it happened a couple of blocks up. But yeah, given the damage, yeah, I think you're right, Greg.
Yeah, I appreciate that update. Anybody else? Any comments on that?
Only thing I saw, my wife had a video pulled up on Facebook, and the damage from the vehicles, whoever it was, I think she said it was a woman, had to have been going pretty significant speed because the front end of her vehicle was destroyed. And I didn't think that was possible. You know, it's, 20, 25 mile an hour in downtown Gatlinburg, so a medical incident like the other guy said, I didn't catch his name, it's probably likely.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone through Gatlinburg at 6 in the morning, and I dare not go fast because you just never know when one of those. I've done it at 4 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon and 6 in the morning, 6 at night. And even if the streets are empty, you just don't go through there at a accelerated rate of speed. Not just because of the cops, but some of the pedestrians that may still be out may just decide to go ahead and cross. And of course, they don't have those crosswalks that light up. They just start walking, and you just got to stop.
AG4 GW.
Yeah, go ahead.
Come to me when we're ready to close.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Come back around to me when you're ready to close it out.
Okay, yeah, it'll be here in just a second. I think we're winding things down. I got one more announcement, somewhat weather-related, but we'll just take one last pause for any late check-ins or late comments, any discussion. All right, nothing heard. So there is a slight bit of weather, but not the kind of weather that you're used to. And I haven't been able to look outside in the last hour and a half, so I can't tell. But if the skies do clear up from the clouds and the haze and the smoke from the Manitoba wildfires and the dust from the Sahara Desert, then if it becomes a little bit of a clearer night, you might be able to go outside and see aurora. The KP index is pretty high. We had a discussion a few months ago about solar weather, but KP index is pretty high right now. It's at a 5. I think if it gets to a 7 or an 8 is when the auroras tend to drift down into our neck of the woods. But there was a big solar flare yesterday, and it came right at the Earth, and so it should be hitting us any time if it's not already in the middle of it. So if you're up north towards the Kentucky state line, or you're out in the middle of a very dark spot, or if you might be able to go up to the mountains there in the Smokies, then if it's a clear night, you can take a look and see if there's any aurora coming up on the horizon. We've had a couple of big events in the last year with space weather, so it's not impossible to see it down here in these lower latitudes. And we're pretty much in the middle of a peak of our solar cycle 25, so it's definitely a good time to catch them if the sun cooperates. So with that, I will start to wrap up the net. Any comments or questions on that?
WB4GBI repeater. KA3WA, late checking in.
Acknowledging Tim, KA3WYE. Got you in there, sir. Glad to hear you. Any comments?
AA4WX.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I asked him to jump in here with us to kind of get a little more clarity. I hate to go back to the previous topic, but Tim, we've been talking about net operations tonight, and I know you and I have had talks many times about proper etiquette when you're on amateur radio. Two things have came up. One is the use of suffixes when checking in. Just checking in, you know, in your case it would be Whiskey Yankee X or Whiskey Yankee Echo. I know that some nets do that and others do not. The other issue that has been brought up, let it drop, is doing this is, unkeying, and then giving your call sign. I know you and I have discussed that many times. Is there a formal rule somewhere about that? Where does that practice come from? Those practices come from that those are bad practices. And I guess formally I need to give it back to Greg for you to answer there. AA4WX.
You're good. Go to Rick.
Alright, so the first one is about using just the last part of your call. That's not etiquette. That is illegal. If you read the rules and regulations, you go take your technician test, it should tell you, you probably had the question come up, how often do you have to identify? One, you have to identify when you first key up, so it's KA3WYE late check-in. Two, you have to do it every 10 minutes. And three, you have to do it at the end of your transmission. Even if you just did your 10-minute, let's say 30 seconds later you decided that you're going to get off, you still have to say your call. Is there any other question about, or is there any comment about that before I get to the other?
K for HSM. Tim, I'm not one to try and disagree with you, but I thought it was as a ham operator, you're required to identify at the end of each communication and at least every 10 minutes. So you technically don't have to identify at the beginning. I could just get on a repeater and say, "Hey Tim, are you around?" And then you would just jump in and say, "Hey, what's going on?" And we talk, and then if we ID at the 10-minute mark, we're still in the clear.
Okay, I just grabbed my book. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I got my SCC rule book, and I'm probably not going to be able to find it while we're doing this. That was my understanding of it, and that goes way back. When I first got my license, maybe I don't know. Maybe it was just the area where I grew up. Or not necessarily grew up, but because I'm not going to sit here and say that yes, it's absolutely true, but I'm going to find it, and then I'll give you an answer to that.
Okay, yeah, no problem. You said you had some more stuff?
And then Josh asked about saying net control this is, or there are some people who do get on the radio and they'll key up and they'll say net control and they'll unkey. Then they'll key back up and say net control this is. So there's nothing illegal about that. There's nothing no etiquette about that. However, I teach martial arts. So if I teach you how to punch and how to kick, and you do it correctly every single time, turn that down.
lot of nerve. You know, and I teach you how to do it every single time. You're going to do it that way all the time. So it's the same way. If there is an emergency net and you're trying to get information out, now, you know, amateur radio is not public safety. I grew up public safety. So, several people have grown up through public safety. And in public safety, there is no thank you. Would you please? Do you care to? You know, they don't key up and say, engine 151 to fire alarm, and then you unkey, and then they come back and say, go ahead. Well, that's ridiculous. You know, you key up, you say engine 151 to fire alarm, give me a second alarm, or this, that, and the other. You get your information out. In most cases, you can say what you need to say in about 15 seconds. But when you do that, when you key up and say net control, or net control this is, it's net control, and then you unkey and net control this is, you're taking up airtime. So you're slowing your ability to get the information out. The other thing that people will argue the point is, they'll argue the point that, well, I just want to make sure that I was able to get into the repeater. Well, just hope that you're getting in the first time instead of taking up the extra time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Josh, did you need to, or did you want to add anything to that?
Oh, that totally clears things up. So I may have misspoke a couple of times, and I apologize for that. That's simply based off the conversations we've had in the past. I wanted to be, be clear on how that works. Comment.
Comment, go.
That FCC. That FCC regulation is 47 Charlie Frank Romeo 97.119, and I'm KO4EBC. I just mow yards, but I got ChatGPT.
Well, ChatGPT, you can be wrong too, but yeah, I'm looking that up too. So yeah, 97119 station identification. Each amateur station, except a space station or telecommand station, must transmit its assigned call sign on its transmitting channel at the end of each communication and at least every 10 minutes during a communication for the purpose of clearly making the source of transmissions from the station known to those receiving the transmissions. It does not specify at the beginning. So, and if I'm not mistaken, and I could be, but it's been 33 years almost, but I think that was one of the questions on the exam was when to identify, and I think that was one of the that was one of the answers. It was like beginning, middle, and end. Middle every 10 minutes at the end, and there was a couple of other things, and I got it right on the actual exam, but I think I got it wrong on the practice.
Comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to be completely honest, this whole conversation has been kind of alienated to me and like completely opposite what I've been taught. I've only been a ham for like 4 years, but it's just, I don't mind to do what everybody says, but it's weird whenever all the questions in the book and stuff say to do the opposite, and then you guys just kind of just stand out on your own and do what you want. KO4EBC.
Well, let me say this. It can also go to the repeater owner. He may, 10 bearings WB4GBI, may have an etiquette. And I don't think that's addressed on his web page. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody has their interpretation of it. It's not like somebody is trying to tell people, what you can or whatever do. And just because some people do it on one repeater doesn't necessarily mean that it's right. Nor does it mean that the other one's right. It's an etiquette, or whether it's a rule or an etiquette. KA3WA.
As long as the etiquette like it's still within the legal confines. I think it is evidently, or eventually, rather, up to the repeater owner. Comment, go.
KC8CPW. Back to what Tim was saying about using the suffix of your call sign being illegal. That's technically not illegal because you're not giving it as a call sign. It could be interpreted as a tactical call sign, which are perfectly legal, which would coincide with 97.119, as long as you do, every 10 minutes and at the end of your transmission. There's nothing wrong with that or illegal about that at all. Because if that's going to be illegal, then there's a whole other net that happens on this repeater on Monday night that's going to have issues. KCHCPW.
WB4GBI repeater.
Well, yeah. I know they do tactical, but they also give their call signs in conjunction with it. So, I mean, I could say net control. Everybody calls me net control, and then I reply net control, go ahead, and then they'll give me the information, and then I conclude with thanks for the information, K4HSM. That's authorized. So, or that's within the legal boundaries. Any other comments? All right, nothing heard.
KG4QW.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I love the conversation, but I want to put it back in the context as we summarize and hopefully close out. The spirit, again, the intent that we're looking for in the SKYWARN net is not to direct anyone to do something different. What we're trying to do, again, is to mimic or mirror what the professional standards would be of communication. And it's not that there's, Greg has nicknames, I have nicknames. In a social atmosphere, in a conversation on the frequency, it's not relevant, right? But during a net, we want to be as clear and as concise as possible, and so we're trying to trim that down. And I just wanted to pull that back for anybody that's just joined in to this and has not heard the pre-context or has heard it out of context. I think they're going to really struggle with why this is the talking point for the training net. What we're trying to do is get your call sign so we know who you are. And if we have your call sign phonetically, it also gives us a general idea as to where you're located at, in case we're not able to hear your location. And then we're trying to get that information and pass it up to the weather service as quickly as we can, and then allow for any other traffic to come in. So we want to do that as clear and as concisely as we possibly can, and that's the spirit of it. Deviating from that and using professional courtesies such as 7.3, DE, or this is, those things are all, I think, fine. It's not something that we're trying to enforce. We're just trying to get into the spirit of the training, and the intent is, again, just to be as clear, concise, and move on as quickly as we can in case there is emergency traffic. With that, I want to close the net out on some good news rather than focusing on just the training and the rules. The nice news is tonight, as the showers are moving out right now, high pressure is going to set in, and you've got until Friday that you should have some really good weather to enjoy, and hopefully we will have a nice, quiet week. KG4, QWI, thank you, Greg.
Well, you might have a nice quiet week, but I'll be heading out to Colorado. If I encounter any bad weather, I may go storm chasing while I'm out there, so you never know. Which goes completely against everything we teach over here, but then again, that's another story. All right. Provided a lot of information tonight, and hopefully it was useful. We'll put up a summary on our website at etskywar.com later. And we'll, of course, you can join us on our Discord server. The links are on the website. And we'll go ahead and complete the training net. Really quick, before we do completely close it, any late check-ins? All right. Actually, stand by. Oh, okay, sorry. I thought I had one. All right. Thanks to everyone for checking in. As a reminder, it's held the first Sunday of the month at 8 o'clock, typically, unless there's a holiday. Now, next month is July, and the next net is scheduled for Sunday, July 6th. And right now, that's still on tap, even though the 4th of July will be that weekend. I think, hopefully, my neighbors will have all their fireworks shot off by Sunday. So we'll still plan on doing it on July the 6th at 8 o'clock. This is WX4TYS closing the net at 9:41 Eastern Time. Thanks to Tim Berry, WB4GBI, for the use of the repeater. And we will now return the repeater to its normal use. This is K4HSM. Thank you all, 7-3s.
Great net, great discussion. Enjoyed it. Tim, appreciate you coming in and giving some insight on that. My count is 30 check-ins, 3-0.
I'm going to add 31 because I got somebody on a text message.
We'll take it. Good night, everybody. Good job, Brandon. Good job, Greg. Thanks, Tim, and everybody for participating. A4WX, good night, everybody.
Again, thanks again. Really, really informative and very helpful, KQ4CCP.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks again, everybody. K4HSM. All right. I'm going to turn the volume down and bring the microphone up here. And if Eric, if you're listening, all right, that's for you. A lot of good discussion. It can go pretty long. We calculate for an hour, but more often than not, it can go quite longer than that. But still, as long as everybody's having a great discussion on it, then I'm all for it. But I got food upstairs waiting for me, so I'm a little hungry. Anyway, if you do go out and catch the aurora, hopefully it'll be impressive. And like I said, we had a couple of aurora events in the last year that I've been able to see. They're pretty doggone impressive, and they're saying that this aurora, if it's active, could be seen as far south as Alabama. It's picking up now. It's at a level 6. It was at 5 about 15 minutes ago. Now it's 6.3. So if it goes up to around the 7 mark, I think it's going to start to show up down here. So hopefully the skies are clearing up, and you all get a chance to witness it. So good luck on that. I'm going to grab a bite to eat. Y'all have a good weekend. See you, Greg. See you, everyone. Catch you next time. There's supposed to be music.